Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, particularly because today is the day that you are signing your book down at Dimmicks, which is very exciting. Tell me everything.
Today's the day. It's been a long time coming. The book is in stores, and it's a surreal feeling knowing that people will be reading my story, helping people out there who might be struggling with how on earth can I achieve, yet not at the cost of me. So I'm kind of excited to go down to Dimmicks and just see who's going to pick up my book and creep up to them like a stalker and sign it.
And has it always been a dream to write a book?
No. It was never, I always thought it was a bit of an ego thing to write a book, actually. And then as I started to tell my story over the last 15 years, I realised that actually my story is big enough and can help other people. And I think vulnerability creates connection. And so the more I've told my story, the more people have leaned in and learnt something. And so I guess it's part of my why now, part of my purpose. And since I only had the idea about a year ago that I really wanted to get my story down before I couldn't. And that's probably going to talk about that as we go through our conversation.
What is your story up until this point?
Long story short is I am an agency girl, grew up in the industry, 20 plus years, was running agencies, running big brands, have tackled some of the biggest brand challenges in Australia, and I loved to achieve. I loved the chase. I loved the addiction of the marketing industry. Thought I could do it all. My definition of success was just every time I achieved something to push even further. And so quite young, I was ahead of my, level compared to everyone else. I was often the only woman. And I realised as I was achieving that it was actually taking a toll on me, but I didn't realise that till it was too late. So about 15 years ago, my body shouted and I had a health crisis and had to stop and fight for my life. I got a rare autoimmune disease called sarcoidosis and have spent the last 15 years, I guess, in the waiting room of death. It's no known cause, no known cure. And it is a disease that is an immune one that attacks your system, so stress is not its friend. And so I spent the last 6 years, I pivoted into actually running my own business and helping leaders figure out how to do this, how to achieve not at the cost of them, and spend most of my time now in room helping leaders on how they show up, help them do the mindset work, as well as a performance mindset coach now, and now an author officially in market today.
Amazing. Congratulations. Can I ask you a personal question? How old are you? We can take this out if you don't want to share.
I don't care. I'm 55.
55. So you said 15 years ago. So
my 39th birthday I was told I might not make it to my 40th. And so I had to step out for 2 years at that point to really fight. I went through 23 rounds of chemo, countless amounts of hospital visits and time in bed. So I stepped out and then I came back part-time. And as I figured out my new way of being in our industry, how can I achieve this whilst sick? So I then became a high-performing sick person. And then I got sick again. It spread to my brain. I had to really stop work then and think about, can I be the leader of an agency whilst navigating an illness that I will never get out of? And I had to accept that this was my reality, and that's when I pivoted into people and culture and decided that I would help. I was at WPP then, and it was when wellbeing wasn't really a term. It's when I first met you, Chloe, right, back then. And so I had 5,500 leaders, 70 companies, 70 agencies where I could actually do the leadership development programs for them as well as the wellbeing ones. And it was there I noticed how much silent suffering was going on across countless people, and especially when you get leaders in room and make it safe. And I went, there's something here. And I'd been at WPP for a good 20 years, and so I decided I want to take my impact bigger. And that was a month before COVID hit. So I left the warm belly of a paycheck and went out on my own. And of course, during COVID, that was about resilient leadership. So, which was how I was living at that point. So that's when I really got into, well, what do I really want to do with my life whilst I can, and not knowing when it would be it for me, and knowing that I was in a never get better kind of health situation. I created a new way of operating, a new system for me to kind of go, how can I, my ambition never left me. I'm still ambitious despite my body being sick. And because of my body being sick, it's been the greatest gift for me to understand what do we really need to focus in on as leaders. And I think that's creating space for them and allowing leaders to think about how they show up, how they perform at their best, and do it in a way that's sustainable, but also allows them to feel contented and focus on what matters. And the industry is relentless. So how do we how do we help leaders do that? And I did it whilst in a sick body, so I know it's possible, and there's definitely a better way. So that's what I've spent the last 7 years, not just helping others, but actually walking my own talk too.
It's interesting listening to you, Fleur, because you and I do very similar jobs, right? Like we're very much in the same space. And when you're saying about the safe space that you need to create, and like everything you're saying, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in it. I do it. I'm with you. Like, and I love it, and I get so much value from it. But I was reading your book this morning, and I turned 35. So I'm 35, and I was reading your book, and it said
very old right now.
But it was like at the age of 35, and I just felt like the book was speaking to me so much. You know, like, and there's also a bit in the book where it says it will find you when you need to hear it. And I was like reading the pages, and I was like, this is meant for me. Like, I'm a big believer that the universe will give you what you need when you need it. And I was like, okay, this is meant to happen today. And I've had a real spring in my step of pure excitement to come and have a chat with you today, because you're an alchemist, right? You are someone who takes pain and turns it into something beautiful and turns it into energy. And I just am so excited to really dig into that as we go through today. When you talk about addiction to work, I think, like, I just want to kind of take everyone almost to who you were back then to versus who you are now.
Sure.
Less about the what, but the who.
Yeah.
That woman who was addicted to work, who was she, and what did her life look like?
Well, she thought she was Wonder Woman. She thought, because my mum had set me up to really believe that I could have it all, do it all, be it all, right? That she had created the pathway for my generation to be able to dream their dream and go get it, and be able to have the family, have the big job, fabulous wardrobe, aspire to whatever you want and go and get it. And so for me, I sort of, when I was young, I was rewarded very early with gold stars for being a good girl and being a good performer. Then I got into my career, and obviously when you deliver the extraordinary, you go beyond the expected, you get rewarded, you get promoted, you keep, excelling, I guess, through. And I loved the chase. I loved the hustle. I'm a bit of, I loved the thrill of give me something hard to solve and I'll figure it out. And so I was really addicted to not climbing the ladder, but actually achieving the extraordinary things that no one thought was possible, or helping clients go, we don't know how to get out of this, help us get there. So I just loved it. I love the creative industry. I love I've always been addicted to the idea of creating things, solving a problem, and then creating an incredible idea to go out and solve for that. So I love the transformation process in agency life and seeing that happen and seeing creatives do their best work and how that all came to reality. So I loved what I did, and I think that was what I justified my behaviour for working so hard. I've always been a worker. I've always been a workaholic, a recovering one now. And so to me, that was what I thought it took just to get ahead, just to be that extraordinary, just to be considered the top of what you do. And I loved getting there. So, and I got rewarded. So as I was valued, I, just went for the next thing. And I think it's quite a common entrepreneur, founder, any achiever, once you get there, you're on to what's next. And so I really never stepped back to sense check my behaviour against my ability in terms of my body. I thought I was invincible. I thought I would be here for forever. So I never really thought about the cost being an issue. I just kept saying to myself, I'll have a break when, or at Christmas I'll take the real rest I need. Just keep going, push through, you've got this. And I did. And then it just got harder and harder. But also I think the addiction piece, the more I achieved, the less I felt the kick of it, as any addiction. The less, I'd sort of be like, yeah, achieved that, but I didn't think it was that exceptional. And so I was a bit numb to it. And that was starting me to question, well, is this really what I want? Is this bringing me true contentment? Is it really worth it? Not hanging out with my family, not being with my loved ones, not ever having a moment to take care of myself. And I think if someone had said to me back then, slow down, that was sort of like, that's just worse than swear words to me. It was like not something I'm ever going to do. Like, don't, you're talking to the wrong person. Take some time out, slow down, take care of yourself was almost like ick. And so I really felt that the achievement was worth it until I realised I couldn't keep it up. The more senior I got, the more I noticed I wasn't allowing myself to recalibrate, recover. I just jumped to the next thing rather than taking the moment. And so, of course, my body started shouting and started saying, stress is not helping me here. And so that's when I started to think, in those sort of middle of the night when my day was quiet, when my body had settled, my inner voice started to say, how are you going to keep doing this? Is this really worth it? How can you, is it something you're doing wrong? What are you failing at? And so I was quite hard on myself to go, you need to be better. Others seem to make this look effortless, so why can't you? Why is it so exhausting? And so there was a bit of punitive there, but there's also a bit of questioning and curiosity going, and probably a little voice going, enough. It's enough. You've done enough. And slowly that voice started to get louder and louder to go, enough. I've had enough. Stop. And my body got there before my mind did.
The body keeps a score, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you avoiding back then? And I asked that question because every client I work with, when you say to them slow down, not that I would ever do that now, but you're thinking slow down, and that they're going to push against that. It's because there's something they are avoiding. Every time it's like, what are you not facing head on, which is meaning slow feels scary to you. What was the thing that you were avoiding back then?
I think it was my enoughness, that I don't think, in having spent some time around self-compassion now, I don't think I love myself. And unless I got the endorsement or the approval from others and felt that I was belonging to that environment, then I didn't feel I was worthy. So I think I was chasing praise and worthiness. And if I stopped, I think I would realise that I needed to do some other mindset work, not around achievement, but actually around who am I, and, that as I am, and I have this little posted on my desk every day, I love you whether you succeed or fail. And that mantra needed to be running through my head, not the just get through, just push through.
And I'm going to ask you a question that's going to sound like I'm challenging you, but I'm deliberately setting you up for an answer. But some would argue, as you've just said, you're still ambitious. That hasn't gone away. Today, you're launching a book, you're doing a podcast, you're about to go to Dimmicks, and you've just told me you're on loads of drugs because you're still going through everything that you're currently going through. Tell me what the difference with that is versus where you were.
Well, I figured out a better way. And I think, just to touch on the drugs, I just actually got cancer back for the second time. So not only an autoimmune, I've just 4 weeks post-radiation. So I've just started a new cancer drug. Just to
touch on the drugs. Sorry, I was aware, but you're very right. We should clarify.
They're causing my body to feel pretty compromised right now, right today. Again, on a key moment in my life, my body's saying, rest. I need you to take care of me today. So I'm being very gentle. So yes, you could argue that overachieving is publishing a book while sick. And I think for me, I'm really clear on what matters in my life. I let go of the noise. Anyone who hangs out with me will know I'm very focused. I also practice being self-fill. I make sure I do have a safe self-care daily routine that I do fill my cup. I also understand what my purpose looks like, and I'm gentle on, enough today. I'll do the book signing, I'll do this, and then I'll take some rest. So I'm giving myself permission to really check in with my body and mind working as one. And my ambition is never going to go away, so I've accepted that. And I think I've owned who I really am and accepted that I'm not someone who's ever going to lie in bed for days on end. In fact, I was moaning to my oncologist yesterday I didn't take one doona day throughout the entire last 4 weeks of radiation. And then I was like, and she was like, of course you wouldn't. That's not you. And I'm like, of course I wouldn't. That's not me. I did take, a movie or a moment, but that's about it. Because I feel like I'm here living, my gift of still being here is to live my purpose. And I think it comes from a different place. It's not from a hunger, it's from a sense of contentment.
And I asked that question deliberately because you're on the Limitless Equation, right? The whole thing is about being limitless. So it's not necessarily pushing every limit you possibly could. It's about going, what's the limits that I want to achieve right now? And what's the point of equilibrium where it's going to make me happy? And I deliberately asked you that question because self-care, self-compassion, all the things that you and I love, it's not about necessarily achieving less. In fact, it's about achieving more, but doing it in a way and a journey that's going to make you feel really incredible about how you're going about it. Like, I genuinely skipped to work today, the excitement of interviewing you. The other thing I'd really love to talk about, there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Good.
The feeling before you found out you were unwell, can we go back to that 6 months? I apologize for it. Please feel free to not answer these questions if it's too
Totally open.
Yeah. That lead up to that 6 month period before you found out, what did that look like?
Well, I was leading the American Express account across Asia for Ogilvy, and I had 3 big bosses who had all written their own books, and the account was unstable. And as you do across 9 countries, we were delivering massive campaigns, and some were going well, some weren't. I was living in Singapore. My husband was the at-home dad. I was 2 countries a week. I was 24/7 because I was reporting into global as well, London and New York. And so I was 24/7. And I remember a Friday night, I was working late, of course, and I went to the bathroom. And, as you do, take a little bit longer, looking at my phone and thinking, not that you should, but while you're in the bath. And by the time I got back, because I wasn't available for 15 minutes, it had been escalated to, my client escalated to the global account lead.
Wow.
On a Friday night. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I've got to be able to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's how in demand. So I was in demand, I was needed.
And that must have made you at the time feel good, right? You would have been to feed that addiction that you spoke about. There was part of you that was enjoying that, being wanted and being needed. Yeah.
Flying in, I used to joke I was, either a fire engine or an ambulance, depending on which country I was flying into and what crisis they had. And I thought I wore that with, pride, the badge of busy, and I'll come in, I'll fix it, and then I'll get out and go. And, that was my modus operandi. I didn't really think about what leadership really looked like then. I didn't really know. It was just about solving problems for me.
And I feel like the word that obviously your book just gave me perspective this morning. Like, I'm only a quarter of the way through. And I just was like, perspective on, like, I think everyone needs to read this purely for, if you're looking for perspective, read this book is basically my recommendation. In that moment leading up and then finding out that you were unwell, can you tell me that journey and this, maybe the perspective it potentially gave you as well?
Sure. I think just to comment on the perspective, my story isn't about being sick. It's about actually building a life that's sustainable, that allows you to be limitless. And I think for me, regardless of the sick thing, which has never left me for the last 15 years, I think it was really back then it was wondering, how can I achieve what I truly want from my life in a way that allows me to stay in it? And, you know, I have a big heart. I love my family. I love, you know, sequins and doing crazy shit. I love traveling. I love all I wanted to fit all the things in that I love, despite my health, by the way, at that point. Yet it always just felt like when I was in those moments on holiday or with my family, I was just not present to my life. I was so exhausted from trying to achieve, to get, so I could get the life I wanted, that I didn't feel it. When I got to the moment where I could enjoy it, I could, because I was so depleted. And so I think back to that time I was really battling with, how do I do this? How can I really want this? And I felt that at the time, some of my beliefs that were driving me weren't serving me. And I thought one of them was, you know, and especially living in, you know, Asian cultures as well, as, you know, me last. So give all of myself out to everyone, whether it was being the best mum, the best leader, the best what am I? A wife?
The best husband.
The best husband. But the best at everything. And I didn't really think about, what do I want? And I wanted it and yearned for it, but I didn't know how I could get it. And I thought that I had to, and our family system was that I was the main income earner. So, you know, I had the great support of my husband to be the one to lead us to the lifestyle we wanted. But I think my definition of success was so flawed. It was a little bit around have stuff, which is a bit shallow, but it was also, I thought that when I got there, I'd feel this thing rather than actually create the life every day and feel contentment rather than strive towards it. How do I create the life that gives that to me now? And so, and it wasn't all the trappings, it wasn't the title, it wasn't the pay, it was none of that. It was actually presence, figuring out who I am, what really matters to me, and being okay, because I'd lived a life of expectation that I needed to be the good girl, I needed to achieve all these things, that to actually step back and go, well, I actually love the sea, I'm going to live there. I actually love fashion, I'm going to own the fact that I love shopping, you know, and create enough so that I can buy the clothes I want. I'm going to, but being present to me and what mattered every day rather than waiting for this fictitious life you're striving towards.
I think that's what the gift of recording this podcast has given me, because everyone who's come on has given me their life story. Like, everyone's been a little bit older than me, a little bit more experience, and they've kind of like all been those high achievers, big striving, like incredible women that have got to the end of it and gone, I don't know if that's quite what I was trying to achieve. And for me, I feel very blessed to have had all these conversations. Yeah, like
it's therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it gives you that perspective on, like, if I'm going to do the big things, if I'm going to do the limitless things, if I'm going to do the hard things, I'm going to make sure I fucking enjoy them along the way.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, what's the point?
That's right.
And I think that like I did my event in Sydney, and I've got my events coming up in Melbourne and Perth and Brizzy, which is crazy. Like, you feel the feels on, like, wow, you're doing the scary things, but you've got to enjoy them. Like, you've got to go, I'm going to do this, and whether it goes well or not, I'm chasing a dream and I'm going to enjoy it along the way. I think that I don't want to brush over how sick you are now. And I'm conscious of not.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about conscious joy at all, or do you want me to talk about that within Limitless?
No. Yeah, no. Talk about your language. I feel like I've brushed over. Sorry, just for the editor thing. I feel like I've brushed over, like, you being unwell now. Like, you know, because I've been following.
I didn't do much of a setup. So
yeah, because because I was following it on LinkedIn. So I want to cut into that now. I'm just trying to think about a way I can ask you that in a compassionate way, because like I've obviously been. I'm going to just say let's just go into it and I'll say it, and
how's
you can
your
tell
journey going, or what's been happening. I don't know.
So Fleur, I've been following your journey on LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn is kind of like twofold for me. You're either there in a disco ball, sparkles, all jazz hands, and, like, you know, living your limitless life, or I'm seeing a horrible update that you're going through something really difficult. You've always got a positive lens on it, and there's always something to be learned from your content and from your posts. But you are I can't not talk about the fact that you are going through cancer at the moment. And I know, I'm sure people are aware, a few people in the industry are also going through something similar. How is that, and how are you? And can we just dive into that for a minute?
So I got breast cancer about 8 years ago. That was dealt with, left breast. And then just before Christmas, the 19th of December, the exact same week as when I got it 8 years prior, ironically, believe it or not,
No.
other boob, second primary cancer, and it had spread to my lymph nodes, which is a shame. So again, it was like another Christmas my poor children and husband and family had to navigate. Is she going to be okay? So found myself urgent surgery, dealt with taking out the actual tumours, and I'd actually just been to a planning day to plan my year ahead, and I'd put my word of the year to be magnificence, because it was my year to arrive, to be ready, with my book coming out.
I feel like you're still doing that, to be fair to you. It still feels like on point.
Oh, thank you. I feel I didn't let this bring me down too much. But also there's the reality and the radical acceptance piece for me, which has been a big part of my story, is actually going, okay, I've hit another bump in the road. It sucks. How am I going to navigate this? So doing a book launch whilst navigating cancer treatment, far from the plan, far from ideal, a perfect storm. And so I had to step back and think about, I know I'm stronger than I ever believed, so I knew I had the strength. Grace has always been a guiding word for me to get through whatever hits me or pulls me back down, or, comes from nowhere. And so I had to accept it, that it was back, firstly, and I really had to trust. I've got an incredible medical team around me. I was also having heart problems at the same time. So I'd been in and out of hospital, ended up getting a device put into my heart area, which is at the same time as having breast cancer surgery. So that was fun. And I just had to go, okay, this is my reality. I've got a book launch coming. I work for myself. I don't get sick pay. I need to keep going. I don't want to scare my children. They are grown adults now, but it's still, when the C word comes out, it's not fun for them either, or for my family. And I decided, based on my book actually, was to choose sequins over being Superwoman. And I made this really conscious choice to go, I don't need to do it all. I don't need to carry it all. I don't need to be the perfect book launcher person. I don't need to try and, push through here. I actually need to figure out how I'm going to do this and how I can enjoy the ride still. And so I even set up a sequin squad. During my cancer treatment, I put out a shout out to say, could you be, which you're part of?
I know, my desk is covered in sequins right now from the book. You can't get rid of these sequins. They're everywhere. They're in my house. I
Caution.
Yeah. It was a beautiful gold packaging
That's
as well.
right.
And it arrived and I was like, oh, what's this? And then all these sequins just fell out. I was like, Fleur. Yeah.
That actually came a long time ago when I first had to go through chemotherapy. I noticed that this was, over a decade ago, everyone would go into the chemo area for your day treatment, for your infusion, and people would become the patient. And I consciously chose back then that I was going to dress up for this moment because it was going to keep me alive, and that I was going to celebrate it, and I was going to wear my sequins, and I was going to have a part. Not that we had a party because it's not the environment, but we made it like I had treat food, and I got dressed up. And as I slid off the chair as the chemo went into my system, I looked at my shiny shoes and smiled, and I think I love sequins. They bring me joy. I live in Byron Bay where sequins aren't a thing, so I do stand out a little bit when I wear them. And again, back to the recent cancer journey, just really catching myself constantly when I fall into my default mode of, I want this book launch to be blah, 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 and get into my whole old story. I have to go reset, just enjoy the ride, back to the sequins. You don't need to do it all today. Just how's your body, just do what you can. So I think for me, it's really intentional choices about where I focus my energy and time, accepting that this wasn't the reality I created. It was outside of my control, yet choosing to respond in a way that will allow me to enjoy this moment and not feel the weight of it.
I have a friend who's going through chemo at the moment, and she says to me that she actually loves going and having it done because it feels like her moment of like peace. And she should have been an overachiever for her. She's really making me laugh as well, actually. She's a very funny woman. If you're listening, love you. But she's said exactly the same in terms of like, how can I make that a moment of pride? And I really like the kind of women that this industry produces in terms of like, that's our mindset and that's how we think. I never do this, but I'm going to read one bit of your with your book, if that's okay, because it's the first page, but I fucking loved it. It says, you are a disco ball, not because you're broken, but because you're multifaceted. The smooth surfaces and the rough edges, the polished victories and the messy struggles, every experience that has shaped you creates a surface that catches light differently. It is in all embracing these facets of your journey that your magnificence, your word, truly shines, casting brilliance in every direction. Like, I read that this morning and was just like, we're all disco balls.
I wanted to get a disco ball dress, actually.
And I love it. But the way you talk about the bits that broke you are the bits that shaped you. Like, I'm a big believer in you need to break down to break through, and sometimes we just need to go on our own journey to get there. How do you help people without giving them the big breakdown that many of us have to then come out the other side? What is your way of helping people who need this but aren't necessarily going through their own big traumatic event that's helping them make that change?
Well, I mean, first of all, not all of us have a health crisis, thank goodness. But we all have stuff, and life happens to all of us. It's what actually makes us human. So my first piece of advice to people is that in the messy lies the gold, that through the struggle, it will grow you, you'll figure out what matters, you will find yourself, you'll understand more about why this is happening to you as you go through it. And so for me, it's really trusting that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Like, sometimes even with this recent cancer thing, I'm like, I've learnt my lesson, come on, give me a break, and yet here I am still relearning my lessons. And so I think it's really knowing that we are a magnificent work in progress, that every day is an opportunity to reset, but also catching our behaviour and where we focus our mindset. So often I'll say to people, what do you think is going to be most helpful for you right now, and what's going to be not helpful? What are the things that, if you find yourself down a pity spiral, or, you find yourself losing a job unexpectedly, or, you're just carrying some stuff, with life, as we all do, and we all have it. Every single person in every room has something going on in their life, has been my experience. And I think when you show up for people, knowing if you're a leader of a team, your team have stuff going on that you will never probably know. It's silent suffering. And so I think it's that empathy to understanding this is what makes us human, that in the shadow you find the light, but you need to have light and shade in order to know what life's true meaning is. Sounds very...
No, I'm with you. I see it like a spectrum. So for me, it's like the more I learnt to cry, like emotional capacity, the more I learnt to cry, the more I learnt to feel pain, the more I learnt to stop avoiding the things that I needed to that were going to hurt me. Down the other end of that spectrum is it meant I laughed more, I danced more, I sung more. And it's almost like I'm seeing this in you as well. It's like the deeper you go into the pain and the dark, the more you can enjoy the sequins and the disco balls and the sparkles down the other end. Watching someone's emotional capacity at a much kind of more narrow, you can almost identify it in other people, where it's like, oh, you've not dug into the
belief system,
yeah,
right? What's driving you, what's pushing you. I think that's definitely when I first got, opened myself up to doing some self-compassion work. I realised that I had a belief system that was causing me to behave a certain way, and that belief system was pushing me to the edge. And I also realised that I needed to find self-compassion and self-love and self-acceptance, which were going to save me more than any green juices would have. I did all the healthy integrated stuff, but actually I was still showing up as a high-performing sick person. I was still in denial. I still hadn't really got a sense of who I was at that point. And so once I started doing that self-compassion work and giving, and again with helping people who are suffering, that's the time to double down on self-kindness, to cut yourself a break, to give yourself some nice words each day to keep going, because you've got it, right? So, and that you're not alone, and that's the human piece, that everyone has something, and it's what makes us, with the vulnerability is what makes us feel connected and not so alone in our journey.
We do the self-compassion works at some of the self-compassion work at some of the retreats I do, and I'll get people to give themselves a hug, because your body doesn't know the difference between whether it's someone else hugging you or you hugging you. And I'll be in meetings now, and if it's not really going the way I want, I'll just stroke my hand a little bit and be like, it's okay, Chloe, I've got you. Self-compassion has genuinely changed my life. Is it Dr. Kirsten Neff that you got obsessed
I got
with?
By her, actually.
She's fantastic.
Incredible. Yes, I went to her when she was here.
Yeah, wow.
So self-compassion gestures, amazing. And rain, recognising what's going on, acknowledging this is a moment of struggle, being interested and being kind to yourself, and then nurturing yourself to actually figure it out, that you'll get through it.
Her podcast is What Get Me to Sleep as well. She's got the most soothing voice, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who have you become off the back of all of this? Because I hear someone who was people-pleasing, who was overachieving, who was striving, and who was probably quite confused and busy.
Wanting love,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Who have you become off the back of all of this journey and everything you've experienced? Who are you now?
Me. I've become me. And I know who I am. I feel very grounded. I feel so happy. I've reconciled the fact when I thought it was it. I don't know when is it going to be, but I've had to do some real deep work on accepting my impermanence. And whilst I'm here, I've decided to help others, and I feel ready to go at any point. I feel I've lived my best life. Not that I'm going anywhere, because I keep being in it.
You look beautiful as well, by the way. I know that's I never tell people what they look like on the podcast, because we're not meant to do that as women, but you look sensational. You look magnificent.
Oh, thank you.
You're glowing.
Thank you. That's my next book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel really clear, and I feel ready. I'm just ready to live the life I want, and I am living the life I want already. And so I just feel grateful that I can be in room and help leaders, and I can help others, and just having this book out there is going to help others, figure it out. So I'm just very grateful and content. I wasn't meant to be here, so every day I can put my feet on the ground and get out of bed is a good day for me. And I just want to make sure I live it fully. And this little wobble in the last 4 months has reaffirmed that for me, that I'm on the right path and I'm doing what I love. So how good is that we've both created careers that we love, right? And I'm going nowhere, because I want to really see life fully, and I'm just open and trusting that I'm doing what I'm meant to be, and that what's next is next for me. And so that gives you a sense of freedom and inner peace, which is probably where the glow's coming from. Is that inner peace, hopefully. If not, I've got really good highlighter on.
That impermanence is something we all face, but it's something that, I was reading about the fact that we have a negativity bias towards everything in life, but actually when it comes to our own existence, we have a positivity bias. It's the only thing where you mentioned it earlier, I thought I'd be fine. I thought I was invincible. I could take everything on. So it's the only part of our life where we don't have a negativity bias, which is what a shit way round to have it, Life. But for you going through that, having to face something that all of the rest of us managed to avoid, or lots of us managed to avoid, what has that taught you? If you could impart wisdom on me and anyone listening in terms of facing something as difficult as that head on, what would be your advice to me?
I think it's mindset, really, has been my biggest lesson. Sitting in this waiting room, I call it. I don't like to use the word death, but I am in a waiting room. So people get sick, they get better. People get sick, they die, pretty much. And so I've been blessed to have time to figure it out, which has been quite amazing to be able to rebuild, to think it through. And so if I hadn't worked on my mindset, I know I would not be here at all. That the ones that didn't take care of their mindset through a hellish time in life, it sends a signal to give up, and you lose hope. And without hope, you have nothing. Without your health, you have nothing either. So for me, it was really mastering my mindset and being able to reset constantly when I wobble out and being okay with that. And then the other, I guess, lesson has been to choose wisely, choose intentionally everything each day, what you're doing, not the big moments, but really choose each day, how do I want to be, how I'm going to show up for myself, how I'm going to show up for others, and what does that really look like within my limits. And so that's been the two big ones for me. And it's a practice. It's a daily practice, your mindset. We are so hardwired, as you say, to default back into our negative Nelly or whatever it is, and just to catch it. All right, here I am back here down that spiral. How are we going to get back? What am I going to do to reset? And having some really good practices. For me, breath regulation is probably the go-to. But creating space and bookmarks in my day, 10 minutes, 3 times a day where I just be. Taking proper breaks so I retain that perspective and stay grounded with my feet, because I'm a very shiny person, as you may have picked up. And so I can easily get distracted and excited, but actually bringing my feet back literally to the ground. And really just having practices that allow you to constantly master this mindset stuff, to be focused on what matters. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's a daily thing.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm exactly the same, like connecting with your body and your breath and like, being conscious, right? Like being aware, being intentional. Like I feel like we're sisters right now with this. Yeah. Can we give people, and I think you'll be comfortable with this, I'm going to ask you to when the last time you cried was and how you then regulated that. Like, can we give people a bit of an understanding about what that looked like for you?
It makes me want to cry even thinking about what last time I cried, right? And there's actually a little story. I can give you a backstory to this a little bit if it's okay. When the first few years of being sick, I put on a brave face because I thought everyone wanted me to be strong. And, at work, with my children, and my daughter, who was quite young at the time, she was about 10, she did stop crying because she thought that was what you did. And I didn't realise that I'd stopped crying and I stopped laughing, and because it was hard. I was in hell. And I thought I needed to be strong for my children, so that was putting on a good front, part of the performing, pleaser in me. And so when I finally let her see me cry, that gave her permission to cry. And so I'm an ugly crier. So when I cry pretty much privately. And I had an opportunity to hand out to my Sequence Squad the books a couple of weeks ago, the advanced copies, and I had to read out their name and they had to have a hug, and it was the last day before I headed off for my final radiation. So I was, 15 days of radiation in a room full of incredible women. And I was handing out my book, and I just suddenly felt overcome with complete and utter emotion that my book was real, and get a bit emotional even talking about it. But not only that, I was in my final day of radiation, and I just had to take the moment. And I just felt it flood out of me, and I hugged my coach, Janine Garner, and just lost it. I just had to let the tears come and have everyone put their arms around me and be. And she had a full agenda. She didn't have time for me to have a breakdown, but I needed it. And then I had to walk out of there and brave up and face my final radiation treatment. But I just let the tears come. I actually have a practice of sitting for silent tea and with beautiful music at a place called Cloud Hidden. It's like my gym membership, but it's for the mind. And because I live in Byron, you have access to beautiful things like that. So I sit for tea 3 or 4 times a week where the tears just come. It's private. There's 18 other people I'm crying with, but they're not all crying. It's just sometimes your tears float up. And I allow them to come. And I think that's part of the radical acceptance, that is to acknowledge this is hard and this is a struggle and I will get through this, but actually I've got to tend to that little Fleur who's feeling pretty worn out and tired at times. And so So I let the tears come, and I just have to make sure it's not too ugly crying.
I love crying. I think crying's my favorite. I never used to cry either. I was so like,
Tears,
yeah.
tears in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm crying. I'm crying. Watching you made me so much. I was so proud of you. I was like, you go, girl. I love this. But no, crying is like the most healthy, most beautiful thing that we can do. And why are we told that we're too emotional? We're not. It's like, that's to your point earlier about being human. Crying is such a big part of that. Like if we can't cry our eyes out, we can't laugh our heart out either, you know?
Right.
So I love that for you. And I hope today doing this, like you're in the Nova Studios and then you're going over to
Big day.
Yeah, to
wonderful
Dimmock's,
day. Hanging out with you today. I couldn't think of anything better.
It's sports. I saw your LinkedIn post, like the book's live. I'm like, oh my God, and I get to interview you. I felt so special. Thank you so much. But you're doing that. And I know that the way you live your life, you are going to take a moment today to go, I fucking did it. I'm really proud of myself. And I hope that everyone reads your book, because I think I'm only a quarter of a way through, and I know you don't want it to be about perspective, but it gave me a bit of a kick up the arse. And I'm someone who practices, I live a very happy life. I know who I am. Like I'm doing all the stuff that you're doing, but we're never complete, right? We never finish learning, and I'm only just started on this, and I can't, as soon as you leave, I'm off to read the rest, because I think it's fantastic, and I hope that people put it in the hands of everyone. Just as on a side note to that, do you remember when I was working at PhD and you had your shop up in Byron?
Yes.
And I told everyone at PhD that we needed to buy Christmas presents for our clients.
Yes, I do. It was during COVID.
Yeah, because I was like, we need to help this woman out. Like that would be a hard business to do. And I went up to our CEO and I said, we need to buy Christmas presents for everyone from Fleur's shop, right? I feel the same about this. I'm like, if you need to do mass presents for anyone, this is a really good mass present.
It's a great gift.
Because I think you're gifting someone something really real as well, in terms of like, I feel like there's loads of self-development books and different things out, but everyone who listens to this podcast is in our industry, like they're going through very similar things, and I feel like this is just really, really real. So thank you for the gift of this, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. Fleur, at the end of every episode, I ask everyone who their limitless woman is that they would like to celebrate. This is going to be a really tough question for you, but who is the limitless woman that you would like to celebrate today?
I'm going to celebrate my daughter. Yeah. I can't say without emotion, so give me a second. Just get myself together 1 second. Okay.
Or don't get yourself together.
Okay, yeah.
We're all about crying on this show.
You've got me started. See, once I start, it's hard to turn the switch off. Okay, I'm going to celebrate my daughter, who is yet to figure out her limitless way, yet has so much to offer this incredible world. She has the biggest heart. She's the wisest soul through her journey of having to navigate a sick mum and in life. And she's the one who taught me to be self-full, to be selfless. And she's 25 in a couple of weeks and finding her feet. And every day she teaches me and keeps me grounded and reminds me of what matters. And so I think as a woman, she's going to make a huge impact in this world. We're just not sure yet what or how, but her why is very clear.
And if we think of this, you mentioned the book being your legacy, and this podcast is part of your legacy, right? It's the things that we leave behind. What advice would you give to her? Like if this is something that she's going to listen back to in 10, 20, 30 years' time, what will she need to hear in that moment?
What I say to myself, I love you whether you succeed or fail. You're enough already exactly as you are.
Beautiful. Fleur, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Go and read the book, everyone. The Overachiever's Reset, a better way to succeed without losing yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chloe. It's been a pleasure.